breaking news that shocked the basketball world. In the middle of the night, Chris Paul posted on his social media saying, quote, "I just found out I'm being sent home." The 12-time All-Star, a future first ballot Hall of Famer, he spent 6 years with the franchise before coming back for this, his final season. So for more on this stunning decision, our senior insider Shams Charania is back with us. Shams, how exactly did the Clippers get to this point?
Like, sources told me that Chris Paul and his leadership style just simply clashed with the Clippers from a management level, coaching staff level with Ty Lue, players level even. And the tipping point really came with how Chris Paul has been throughout his career. Vocal with players, with coaches, with the front office. And I'm told he increasingly became vocal about how he felt the coaching staff potentially could make decisions early in the season as this team started to struggle. And clearly Ty Lue and Chris Paul ended up having issues because I'm told Ty Lue simply was not on speaking terms with Chris Paul for the last several weeks. And one source told me that it felt like Ty Lue felt like Chris Paul might have been stepping on toes. Whatever the case may be, Chris Paul is now out and they've sent him home. And he obviously felt like he could still play for this team and be a contributor, but the Clippers wanted to move on, and they did so overnight.
And this, I think, Shams, is so stunning because we're talking about an NBA legend here being, as you said, sent home, not waived, but sent home. He ranked 16th in games played. He's second in assists, second in steals in NBA history. He's a 5-time assist champ, a 6-time steals champ, and the only guard to make more all-defensive teams than CP3 is Kobe Bryant. So the president of basketball operations for the Clippers, Lawrence Frank, he was asked earlier this morning about the situation. Take a listen.
These are very, very, very hard decisions. And ultimately, it's my job to do what's best for the organization, do what's best for the team, even if it's not popular. I mean, look, right now we're playing bad basketball. We're on both ends. We're a bad basketball team, and we're capable of being a whole lot better than 5-16. Chris, has, a very good leadership style. He's led a lot of teams, and he's led a lot of teams as being, one of the best players, if not the best player on the team. Like I said, the role, some moves you make, roster moves you make, just like you have great intentions, and some work and some don't. And I own that. And this one just didn't work at this time.
So now welcoming in our senior writer, Brian Windhorst. Brian, what did you make this? I think the situation is incredibly odd. What did you make of how this played out?
It is odd.
Yeah.
Basically, when I talked to people today, Chris Paul was being Chris Paul, which is that he has something to say to teammates, to coaches, to the front office. He views it as keeping it accountable. Whether it's always received that way, it depends. The difference is that for 19 years, Chris Paul has always been a star or the starter playing big minutes. When you are the 9th, 10th, 11th man, sometimes not even playing 12 for 13 minutes a game. When you do, it hits differently, it feels differently, and this is a role that Chris has never been in before, and it wasn't working. And frankly, if you have a situation where you might need to make a change and you can, take a player away who plays a very small role, even if that player is a very high-profile player, it's easier to do when it's a bit role. I don't think the Clippers handled this well at all. I don't think that there was good, expectations set from the beginning. I think doing this in the middle of a road trip, very late at night, was also a mistake. But ultimately, I think the Clippers are trying to do something to keep the team together. And Lawrence Frank obviously viewed this in response to what I think was several people wanting this on the roster and on the coaching staff.
Yeah, I'm with you, Wendy. I'm a bit confused, more than a bit. I just don't understand. You couldn't have a conversation. Everybody knows who Chris Paul is. He's one of the most decorated, one of the best point guards in the history of our game. And you send him home like he's a child is kind of crazy to me. You knew who he was. You knew how he acted. You know what he brings to the table. So for you to like I said, treat him this way is very bad on the Clippers organization. I hope for Chris's sake it's not worse, but I hope for the Clippers organization that there's something more than just him being a distraction in the locker room where you can't have a conversation, because this is not enough. This is not enough to send a 20-year vet, when most places, one of the best point guards in the history of our game, home, and when you guys are playing such bad basketball in the beginning of the season.
And you know who you signed.
And this is retiring. This is retirement year. He's announced that he's retiring. This is how you treat one of the, in our fraternity, in the NBA, it's a bad look for the Clippers organization right now.
I'm not Chris Paul, but I woke up at 5 a.m. feeling disrespected. You know what I mean? And that's because I grew up and admired and got to know and understand Chris Paul. And if anybody else knows that, it's the Clippers. And to handle this situation, this is not how you want to make news. We all know, and even if he was probably pushing for more of a bigger role, hypothetically, he's 40 years old. Like, the realities are coming, but this is not how you handle it. In communication, I was confused also because we heard two different things. Oh, he has a good leadership style, but it's not the leadership style that we need right now.
Right.
But if anybody knows his leadership style, it's the Clippers. So I really feel for him. And like we said, we started off this year with a beautiful press conference where you were, Malika, talking about how important the season was.
Yeah.
This was dropping the ball and handling.
Bobby, I think that I've seen a lot of places folks say that Chris Paul is being waived or he's not on the roster. None of that is the case. He was just sent home. So the next question is, what happens now?
Yeah, we're going to be in a holding pattern a little bit here, Malika. And here's why. Chris Paul signed a contract this offseason. He can't be traded until December 15th. So we're still 12 days from that. He can't be waived because if the Clippers waive him, they can't sign a 14th player because they are not enough below the first apron here. So you have to have 14 players on your roster. He can certainly entertain a buyout, but if you're going to do the buyout route, who out there has a roster spot? Malika, there's 10 teams that have an open roster spot. And guess what? 9 of them are either in a luxury tax or impacted by this first or second apron, including the Los Angeles Lakers, the Houston Rockets, and the New York Knicks here. So I would expect this thing to drag on a little bit here. And I don't see, although they sent him home, as you said, it doesn't mean that he's been waived. And we're going to be in a, as I said, a holding pattern a little bit here before this gets resolved.
Now, our Shams reported earlier in the show that his leadership style, it clashed with the Clippers, and that Coach Ty Lue and the All-Star had not been on speaking terms for weeks. As we say hello to Ohm Youngmisuk, who's in Atlanta, that's where the Clippers play tonight. Ohm, this news, I think it shocked all of us, but the question that I keep coming back to, why did this happen now?
Yeah, Malika, the optics don't look good because Chris Paul post on his Instagram story at 3:47 a.m. Or 2:47 a.m. that he basically has been told he's being sent home. And then I get a statement from the Clippers at like 3:07 a.m. Basically saying they're parting ways. But according to the Clippers and Lawrence Frank, this is the timeline. This is not one incident or one meeting that didn't happen or one meeting that led to this. This was something that Lawrence Frank says he and Chris Paul have had numerous discussions about. And then on Sunday, he made the decision that he was going to meet with Chris Paul and set up a time to make this decision to part ways. On Monday, he contacted Chris, and they were supposed to meet on Tuesday at the hotel in Atlanta. The Clippers were stuck on the tarmac in Miami for 6 hours due to mechanical issues. So they did not get in until late Tuesday night, and then they had a 3-hour emotional meeting where Lawrence Frank told Chris Paul that they were parting ways, and this just wasn't a right fit. And I'm sure Chris Paul went back at them because everything I've been told, this did come as a stunner to Chris Paul, who obviously probably did not see this coming. Yes, I think he knew that there were some concerns from the Clippers, but I don't think he thought it was going to come to this point.
Absolutely not, particularly when you're talking, Ohm, about a player who is brought in to have his retirement be a full circle moment. When the Clippers post on social media, welcome home, that this is going to be the last stop, that was the understanding for everyone. So I think everyone is stunned. I do want to bring in Tim McMahon, our senior writer, as well, because Tim, you've been around this Clippers team these past couple of weeks. Were you as shocked as all of us were here?
I mean, everybody was shocked, but you don't treat a first ballot future Hall of Famer like this. And I wish for Chris Paul, he would have retired this summer, going out as an 82-game starter who helped lift the San Antonio Spurs back towards relevancy. That would be a respectful, fitting way for one of the most ruthless competitors we've ever seen in this league go out. He was hoping for the storybook ending, coming back home, and went from welcome home to stay your butt at home real quick. And here's the thing. Shams reported that he hadn't been on speaking terms for a while with Ty Lue. Let me be more specific. Ty Lue has refused to speak to Chris Paul for weeks now. Basically said, hey,
Wow.
Go rot on the end of the bench like he's some kind of undrafted rookie. This is the point guard. If you didn't value Chris Paul's voice, why did you bring him back? Oh, his leadership style clashes. Did you not live with Chris Paul for years? Did you not know this is a guy who's going to call it as he sees it, who's going to be blunt, who's going to speak his mind when he sees something, who's going to try to hold guys accountable? This is an awful look for the Clippers. And by the way, the Clippers hope to drag themselves out of this mess long term is via free agency. What kind of message does this send to stab a legend in the back, much like they stabbed Blake Griffin in the back? It's a terrible, terrible look for the LA Clippers.
Yeah, and you're looking at, teams, organizations that are trying to find their first ever championship and pursue a culture that is respectable. These are the things this year has been, for lack of a better way to say it, a hot mess, right? And when you talk about, relationships, it's quite interesting. But first, let me show you these numbers. It's unfortunate to see, based off of how things have gone down, this streak come to an end. Every year, Chris Paul steps to a team, he makes them better, except this year, which, mind you, we don't really care about this year because that's on its own remarkable. This is a legend of the game. This is someone who was member of the top 75 team. And, I'm looking overall and I'm like, it's like you married someone, you know who that person is, and then you go back to it and you're like, oh, wait, it's the same person? That doesn't work out. Everyone understands the respect he demands. I just think that this is not their biggest problem, and addressing it this way now makes it an even worse problem.
I agree. Brian?
I think you have to remember that the Clippers thought that they could potentially win the Western Conference this year. They thought there was a better chance of being 16-5 right now than 5-16. And they thought that Chris Paul could potentially be a leader at the later stages of the season. Maybe he would come in and play 5 important minutes in a key playoff game. And when he is making, when he's pulling guys aside and saying things, it hits differently when you're in, second to last place or wherever they're at in the Western Conference. So this vision for this entire team, with the way they were going to have these veterans on this team and the way they were going to play, has collapsed. The Chris Paul thing failing is just one of many things for the Clippers that has collapsed. And this was just something, as they try to turn things around, that was an easier fix. As raw and as coarse as that might be, that seems to be the decision the Clippers have made right now.
It's really interesting to me as we talk about the blame and the fault and where all of this is with the Los Angeles Clippers right now, because they've had a disastrous season. This isn't why they made the moves that they made. Lawrence Frank said in his statement to Ohm, who, by the way, has been working on this story round the clock, he said he wants to make very clear no one is blaming Chris for underperforming. I accept the responsibility for the record we have right now, and there's a lot of reasons why we've struggled. But this move, to me, the actions say the opposite of those words. And so that's really hard, I think, for a lot of NBA fans, myself included, to square right now.